The morning came gentle and golden, the kind of June day that felt like a promise. The farmer stood in his kitchen, coffee in hand, watching the light spill across the fields he'd worked for 30 years. 52 years old, and he still found peace in these quiet mornings, in the ritual of waking with the sun and greeting the land like an old friend. It was graduation day at the local university, he remembered. The small college town 5 miles down the road would be full of families, celebrations, caps flying into the air. He'd driven through campus once on a graduation day years ago and had felt oddly moved by it. All those young people stepping into their futures full of hope and possibility. He finished his coffee and headed out to start the day's work. The barn needed mucking, the fence along the south pasture needed mending, and the vegetable garden was calling for attention. Simple, physical work that kept his hands busy and his mind quiet. He was halfway to the barn when he heard it, crying. Not the soft sniffling of someone with allergies or a sad movie memory, but deep, wrenching sobs that spoke of real heartbreak. The sound was coming from behind the barn, in the small grove of cottonwood trees where he sometimes sat in the shade during hot afternoons. The farmer stopped, uncertain. His property was private, fenced. Whoever was crying back there had either climbed the fence or found the gap near the creek that he kept meaning to fix. He approached slowly, carefully, not wanting to startle whoever it was. And then he saw her. A young woman, maybe 22 or 23, sitting with her back against one of the cottonwood trees. She wore a blue graduation gown, the fabric dusty and wrinkled, and her cap lay discarded beside her. Her dark hair had come loose from whatever style it had been in, falling around her face in tangles. Her hands covered her eyes as she sobbed, her whole body shaking with the force of her grief. "Miss," the farmer said softly, "are you all right?" She gasped and looked up, her face streaked with tears and mascara, her eyes red and swollen. For a moment, she looked terrified, like she might bolt. Then something in his expression, concern, not anger, seemed to reassure her. "I'm sorry," she choked out. "I'm sorry, I know I'm trespassing. I needed somewhere to go and I saw the trees and I thought, I'm sorry." "It's all right," he said gently, staying where he was, giving her space. "You're not in trouble. I just want to make sure you're okay. Are you hurt?" She shook her head, then immediately contradicted herself by nodding. "Not physically, but everything else." Her voice broke and fresh tears spilled over. The farmer looked at this young woman in her graduation gown, clearly in crisis, and made a decision. "Have you had breakfast?" The question was so unexpected that she stopped crying for a moment, staring at him in confusion. "What? Breakfast? Have you eaten today?" No, I don't think so." "Well, that won't help anything." He gestured toward the house. "I was just about to make some eggs and toast. You're welcome to join me. Get some food in you, maybe some water, and then you can tell me what's got you so upset. Or not tell me. Either way, you shouldn't be out here alone and crying on an empty stomach." She looked at him warily and he understood. Strange man, isolated property. She'd be foolish not to be cautious. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said quietly. "I promise. But I can't in good conscience leave you out here like this. At least let me feed you and make sure you're all right before you go on your way." Something in his tone, the gentle sincerity, the complete lack of threat, seemed to reach her. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand and nodded slowly. "Okay, thank you." Her name was Maya, and she just graduated from the university with a degree in environmental science, or she should have just graduated. Technically, she had the degree, but she hadn't walked across the stage, hadn't attended the ceremony, hadn't done any of the things she'd spent 4 years imagining. She told him this in fragments while sitting at his kitchen table, hands wrapped around a mug of hot tea, her graduation gown hanging over the back of her chair. The farmer cooked quietly, giving her space to speak or not speak, whatever she needed. "My parents were supposed to come," she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "They promised. I'm the first person in my family to graduate from college. My mum's been talking about this day for years. And this morning, 2 hours before the ceremony, they called and said they couldn't make it. My dad's business had some crisis, and they needed to deal with it. They said they were sorry, that they'd celebrate with me next week, but her voice broke. It's not the same. Next week isn't today, and I realized, standing in that auditorium full of families taking pictures and crying happy tears, that I didn't have anyone there. Not my parents, not my ex-boyfriend who left me 3 months ago, not the friends who all have their own families to celebrate with. I was completely alone. The farmer set a plate in front of her, scrambled eggs, buttered toast, fresh strawberries from his garden. So you left. So I left. I just started walking. I didn't even know where I was going. And then I saw your property and it looked so peaceful and I just broke. She looked up at him, her eyes still red. I'm sorry, this is pathetic. You don't need some stranger's problems dumped on you. Everyone's problems feel pathetic when they're overwhelmed by them, the farmer said, sitting down across from her with his own plate. Doesn't mean they're not real. Doesn't mean they don't hurt. Maya looked at him for a long moment, something shifting in her expression. You're very kind. I don't think I expected that. Expected what? Someone to actually care, to see me upset and not just walk away or tell me to get over it or... She shook her head. Everyone keeps telling me I should be happy. That graduation is supposed to be this amazing, joyful day, and I feel guilty for being sad, which makes me sadder, which makes me feel more guilty. Emotions don't work that way, the farmer said gently. You can't guilt yourself into feeling something different. You feel what you feel. And right now, you feel disappointed and hurt and alone. That's valid. She started crying again, but softer this time. Thank you for saying that. They ate in comfortable silence, and gradually the farmer saw some color return to her face, some steadiness return to her hands. The food and warmth were helping, but he suspected what she really needed was what he'd already given her. Acknowledgement, acceptance, a safe place to fall apart. What will you do now? He asked when they'd finished eating. I don't know. I have an apartment in town, a job starting in August with the Forest Service. I should probably go back there, clean myself up, pretend this morning never happened. She looked around his kitchen, the simple, clean space with its old wooden table and sunlight streaming through the windows. But I don't want to. Is that strange? I don't want to go back to that empty apartment where I'll just sit and feel sorry for myself. The farmer thought for a moment. I've got work to do around here today. Garden needs weeding, chicken coop needs cleaning, fence needs mending. Nothing glamorous, but it's honest work. You're welcome to stay and help if you want. Might be good to keep your hands busy, get out of your head for a while. Maya looked surprised. You'd let me stay? Why not? You need somewhere to be that isn't alone with your thoughts. I could use the help. Seems like it works out for both of us. She smiled for the first time since he'd found her, a small, tentative expression that transformed her face. I'd like that, if you're sure. I'm sure. They worked together through the morning and into the afternoon, the physical labor grounding and meditative. Maya proved to be a quick learner and hard worker, not afraid to get her hands dirty. She weeded the garden with focused attention, cleaned the chicken coop without complaint, and helped him mend the fence with steady hands. The farmer found himself enjoying her company more than he'd expected. She was smart and thoughtful, asking good questions about the land and the animals, listening carefully to his answers. And as the day wore on, as the work tired her body but cleared her mind, she began to talk more freely about her childhood in a working-class family where money was always tight, about her parents who loved her but had never quite understood her desire for education, who saw college as impractical rather than admirable, about the pressure she'd put on herself to succeed, to prove that their sacrifices had been worth it, about the loneliness of being the first in her family to pursue something they couldn't fully relate to. I think that's why it hurt so much that they didn't come, she said as they sat on his porch in the late afternoon, sharing cold lemonade and watching the shadows lengthen across the fields. Because I've spent 4 years trying to make them proud, trying to show them that this mattered. And when they chose not to come, it felt like confirmation that it doesn't matter to them, that I don't matter enough. I doubt that's true, the farmer said gently. Sounds like they got caught up in their own crisis and made a bad choice. Doesn't mean they don't love you or aren't proud of you. Maybe. But it still hurts. It should hurt. They let you down. You're allowed to feel that. Maya turned to look at him, and there was something in her eyes, gratitude, but also something deeper, something like recognition. How are you so wise about this? Have you been disappointed like this before? The farmer was quiet for a moment, considering how much to share. My wife left me 7 years ago, said she couldn't live this life anymore, that she needed more than what the farm could offer. And for a long time I felt like you do now, like I'd failed, like I wasn't enough, like everything I'd built didn't matter because she didn't want it. He paused, but eventually I realized that her leaving wasn't about me not being enough. It was about us wanting different things, and that's okay. It still hurt, but it was okay. Do you still miss her? Sometimes, but mostly I miss having someone to share this with. He gestured at the farm around them. The land is beautiful, the work is meaningful, but it's lonely doing it all alone. Maya nodded slowly. I understand that. I felt lonely for 4 years, even surrounded by people, maybe especially when surrounded by people. They sat in comfortable silence, and the farmer felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Connection. Real, genuine connection with another person who understood loneliness, who wasn't afraid of honest emotion, who could sit in silence without needing to fill it with empty words. Thank you, Maya said finally, for today, for not making me feel stupid or dramatic or like I was overreacting. You weren't overreacting. You were reacting appropriately to something painful. She smiled at that, and the farmer noticed how beautiful she was when she smiled, how the sadness in her eyes lifted slightly, revealing warmth and intelligence and resilience underneath. Can I ask you something? She said. Of course. Would it be okay if I came back? Not today, but sometimes? I start my job in August, and until then, I don't have much to do except sit in my apartment. And I really liked being here today. The work, the quiet, you. She blushed slightly. I mean, your company. You're easy to talk to. The farmer felt his heart beat a little faster. I'd like that. You're welcome here any time. Maya came back the next day, and the day after that. And soon it became a routine. She'd arrive in the morning, they'd work together through the day, and in the evenings they'd sit on the porch and talk about everything and nothing. She told him about her studies, about her passion for conservation and sustainable agriculture. He told her about the land, about the lessons his father had taught him, about the peace he found in the rhythm of the seasons. They talked about books and music and philosophy, discovering unexpected common ground. And slowly, gradually, something shifted between them. It started with small things. The way his hand would linger when he helped her over a fence, the way she'd lean slightly closer when they sat together, the way their eyes would meet and hold for just a moment longer than necessary. The farmer tried to ignore it at first. She was 23, nearly 30 years younger than him. She'd just graduated, had her whole life ahead of her. She didn't need some middle-aged farmer complicating things, but he couldn't deny what he felt, the way his day brightened when she arrived, the way he caught himself thinking about her when she wasn't there, the way her laughter made him feel young again. One evening in late July, as they sat watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and gold, Maya turned to him with an expression he couldn't quite read. Can I tell you something? She asked always. I think I'm falling in love with you. The words hung in the air between them, heavy with possibility and risk. The farmer's heart hammered in his chest. Maya, I know what you're going to say, that I'm too young, that you're too old, that this doesn't make sense. Her voice was steady, despite the emotion in her eyes. But I don't care about any of that. All I know is that these past 2 months being here with you have been the happiest I've been in years. You see me, really see me. Not who I'm supposed to be or who people want me to be, but who I actually am. And you accept that. You accept me. I do see you, he said quietly. And what I see is remarkable. But Maya, I'm 52 years old. You have your whole life ahead of you. You shouldn't be... Don't tell me what I should or shouldn't feel, she interrupted gently. I've spent my whole life having people tell me what I should want, what I should do, who I should be. For once, I know exactly what I want. And it's this. It's you. It's this life, this farm, this peace I've found here. The farmer looked at her. This brilliant, beautiful young woman who'd stumbled onto his property in tears and had somehow become essential to his existence, and felt his resistance crumble. "I'm falling in love with you too," he admitted. "I've been trying not to. Trying to be responsible, to think about what's best for you. But the truth is, I look forward to seeing you every day. I'm happier when you're here, and the thought of you leaving, of starting your job and moving on with your life without me in it, breaks my heart." Maya's eyes filled with tears, but she was smiling. "Then don't let me leave. Ask me to stay." "Stay," he said, reaching for her hand. "Please stay." She leaned forward and kissed him, soft and tentative and full of promise, and the farmer kissed her back, 30 years of loneliness melting away in the warmth of her touch. Maya took the job with the Forest Service, but kept living at the farm, commuting to the office 3 days a week and working from home the rest of the time. She brought her things gradually, books and clothes and the small tokens of her life, until the house that had been his alone became theirs together. They were married the following spring in the grove of cottonwood trees, where he'd first found her crying. It was a small ceremony, just close friends and Maya's parents, who'd come to understand and accept their daughter's choices, their daughter's love. The farmer was 53, Maya was 24, and they didn't care what anyone thought about the age difference. They'd found each other at exactly the right moment, when both were lonely, when both were ready, when both needed exactly what the other could offer. The years that followed were full and rich. Maya brought new energy to the farm, implementing sustainable practices she'd learned in school, starting a small CSA program that connected them with the community. The farmer taught her everything his father had taught him, passing down generations of knowledge to someone who valued it, who would carry it forward. And sometimes, on June mornings, they'd walk together to the cottonwood grove and remember that day. Her graduation day that had started with heartbreak and ended with hope, with connection, with the first seeds of love. "Best graduation present I ever got," Maya would say, taking his hand. "What's that?" "Finding you, finding this, finding home." And the farmer would pull her close, grateful beyond words that she'd climbed his fence, that she'd chosen his property to fall apart on, that he'd heard her crying and hadn't walked away. Because sometimes the best things in life came when you were at your lowest, when you'd given up hope, when you thought you'd be alone forever. Sometimes all it took was one person seeing you in your pain and offering simple kindness. And from that small gesture, everything beautiful could grow. 25 years had passed since that June morning, when the farmer found Maya crying behind his barn, and the world they'd built together had grown beyond anything either of them could have imagined on that first difficult day. The farmer was 77 now, his hair completely silver, his hands gnarled but still capable, still strong enough to work the land he loved. Maya was 48, her dark hair showing the first threads of grey, her face lined with laugh lines that spoke of years of joy. The age difference that had once seemed so significant had mellowed into something beautiful. Two people who'd found each other at exactly the right moment, who'd grown together rather than apart. They sat on the porch on this particular evening, a warm September twilight settling over the farm. The land had changed over the decades, evolved with Maya's vision and the farmer's wisdom. What had been a solitary operation was now a thriving educational farm, hosting school groups and interns, teaching sustainable agriculture to the next generation. Their daughter, Rose, was 22 now, the same age Maya had been when they met. She'd just graduated from the same university her mother had attended, but unlike Maya's graduation, this one had been full of celebration. The whole family had been there cheering as Rose walked across the stage to receive her degree in agricultural education. "Do you remember?" Maya asked softly, her hand finding his the way it always did, the gesture as natural as breathing after 25 years. "What I was like that day you found me. I remember a young woman who'd been let down by people she loved," the farmer said, squeezing her hand gently, "who felt alone and lost, who needed someone to see her pain and not turn away from it." "I was so broken," Maya said, her voice thick with emotion. "I thought graduation day would be the best day of my life, and instead it was the worst. Or it started as the worst. She turned to look at him, her eyes still bright despite the years. And then I found your property, or maybe it found me. And you didn't tell me I was trespassing or being dramatic. You just fed me breakfast. The farmer chuckled softly. Seemed like the right thing to do. Can't solve problems on an empty stomach. You solved more than my empty stomach that day. You solved my empty heart. She paused, watching the sun paint the sky in shades of amber and rose. Sometimes I think about the girl I was then, sitting behind that barn, crying like the world was ending. And I want to go back and tell her, hold on. In about 6 hours, you're going to meet the man who will change your entire life. The man who will teach you what real love looks like, what partnership means, what home feels like. Would she have believed you? Not for a second. Maya laughed softly. I was so sure I'd be alone forever, that I was too difficult, too ambitious, too different for anyone to really understand. And then you understood me completely without me having to explain a single thing. The farmer was quiet for a moment, remembering that first day, how fragile she'd seemed, how lost, how he'd recognized that loneliness because he'd been living with it himself for so long. Two people in pain finding each other at exactly the right moment. That's what it had been. That's what it still was in many ways. I was lonely too, he admitted, something he didn't say often even after all these years. I'd convinced myself I was fine with it, that the land was enough. But you reminded me what I'd been missing. You brought life back into this house, into my days, into me. Maya leaned her head on his shoulder, the familiar weight of her, a comfort he'd never take for granted. We saved each other. We did. Rose appeared on the porch then, carrying her baby daughter, their granddaughter Lily, just 6 months old. The sight of her always made the farmer's chest tighten with emotion. He'd never thought he'd have children, let alone grandchildren. But Maya had given him both, had given him a family he'd stopped believing was possible. She's finally asleep, Rose whispered, settling into the rocking chair her grandfather had made when she was born. Took forever tonight. Babies know when there's excitement in the air, Maya said softly. She didn't want to miss anything. They sat together in comfortable silence, 3 generations sharing the evening peace. The farmer looked at his daughter, holding her daughter, and felt a gratitude so profound it almost hurt. This beautiful, brilliant young woman who taught children about agriculture and sustainability, who'd chosen to stay close to the farm rather than running towards city lights. She was proof that love could create legacy, that the choices you made in moments of crisis could ripple forward through time. Mom, Rose said after a while, her voice thoughtful. I've been meaning to ask you something. What is it, sweetheart? Do you ever regret it? The way things happened? Being so young when you met Dad, giving up other opportunities to build this life. Maya was quiet for a long moment, and the farmer felt a familiar flutter of worry, the fear that one day she'd wake up and realize she'd missed out on something, that she'd given up too much too young. But then Maya smiled, and it was the same smile that had captivated him 25 years ago. Not for a single second. Every other path I could have taken would have meant not having this, not having him, not having you, not having this farm and this life and this family, and I can't imagine anything more valuable than what we've built here. She turned to the farmer. You gave me something that graduation day that I didn't even know I needed. You gave me a place to belong, and over the years we've built that into something bigger. A place where other people can belong to, where students come to learn, where interns find their passion, where families experience what real connection to the land feels like. Your mother's the visionary, the farmer said to Rose. I just provided the land. She provided the vision. You provided the foundation, Maya corrected gently. The wisdom, the patience, the understanding that real growth takes time. You taught me that rushing doesn't lead anywhere good, that the best things grow slowly, with attention and care. Rose rocked gently, Lily sleeping peacefully in her arms. I hope I can build something half as beautiful as what you two have. You already are, Maya said. Every day, with every choice you make, you're building your own legacy. And the best part is, you get to do it knowing you're loved, knowing you're supported, knowing you have family who will always show up for you. The unspoken contrast hung in the air. Maya's parents, who hadn't shown up for her graduation, who'd chosen business over their daughter's milestone moment. They'd reconciled over the years, had become loving grandparents to Rose, but that initial wound had never completely healed. It had just transformed into something else, a lesson about priorities, about presence, about the importance of showing up for the people you love. "I'll always show up," the farmer said quietly, looking at his daughter and granddaughter. "For both of you, for as long as I'm able." "I know, Dad," Rose said, her voice thick with emotion. "You've never let me down, not once." As the evening deepened and stars began to appear, the farmer thought about the journey that had brought them here. That morning, 25 years ago, when he'd heard crying behind his barn and had chosen to investigate rather than ignore it. How easily he could have made a different choice, could have decided it wasn't his problem, could have gone about his day and never known what he was missing. But he'd listened to his instincts, had followed the sound of someone in pain, had offered simple kindness without expecting anything in return. And from that one choice, this entire beautiful life had grown. Maya, sensing his thoughts the way she often did after so many years together, squeezed his hand. "What are you thinking about?" "How grateful I am for that day, for every day since, for you, for Rose, for Lily, for all of it." His voice was rough with emotion. "How one morning can change everything if you're paying attention, if you're willing to help, if you're brave enough to let someone in." "We were both brave that day," Maya said softly. "Me for staying when every instinct told me to run, you for offering kindness to a stranger. And we've been brave every day since, choosing each other, building this life, refusing to let anyone tell us we were wrong." The farmer pulled her closer, and she rested her head on his shoulder, both of them watching Rose rock their granddaughter under the darkening sky. This was everything he'd never known he wanted. Family, legacy, love that deepened rather than faded with time. "I would do it all again," he said quietly. "Every single moment, exactly the same way." "Even the hard parts?" "Especially the hard parts. They taught us how to be strong together." Maya lifted her head and kissed him softly. "I love you. I've loved you since that first day, even though I didn't know it yet. I love you too. Always have, always will." As the night settled fully around them, and Rose carried sleeping Lily inside, the farmer and Maya remained on the porch, holding hands, watching the stars emerge one by one. They'd grown old together, would continue growing old together, and neither could imagine any other ending to their story. Because this was what happened when you chose compassion over convenience, when you offered help without expecting anything back, when you were brave enough to build something real with another imperfect human being. You created magic. You created home. You created a legacy of love that would outlive you both. And it had all started with one young woman crying behind a barn, and one farmer who'd chosen to ask if she was okay. Sometimes that's all it took to change everything. One question, one kindness, one choice to see another person's pain and not look away. From that small seed, forests could grow, and theirs had grown beautiful and strong, roots deep in the land they loved, branches reaching toward a future full of hope. What did you think of this story? Would you have offered the same kindness to a stranger in pain? Leave your sincere thoughts below, and if you enjoy these stories, don't forget to like and subscribe. Your presence here means the world.